Hi there, guys. I hope you all are fine. Our today's video is about bats. Bats, fascinating creatures of the night. Part 1. Introduction to bats. Bats are amazing animals that often fly through the night sky. They are the only mammals, or warm-blooded animals, that can truly fly. While some other mammals can glide from tree to tree, like flying squirrels, only bats can flap their wings and fly like birds. They are found almost everywhere in the world, except in very cold places, like the North and South Poles. What do bats look like? Bats come in many different sizes and shapes, but they all share some common features. Their bodies are covered in fur, which helps keep them warm. Most bats have large ears that help them hear very well. They have small eyes, and although many people think bats are blind, they can actually see quite well. However, they often use a special skill called echolocation to find their way around in the dark. Echolocation means they make high-pitched sounds that bounce off objects, helping them to see with their ears. The wings of a bat are made of a thin layer of skin stretched over their arm and finger bones. If you look closely, a bat's wings look a lot like a human hand with long, thin fingers. The skin between these fingers is what makes up the wing. When bats fly, they flap their wings by moving their arms and fingers, just like we might wave our hands in the air. Different types of bats. There are more than 1,400 species, or types, of bats in the world. These species are divided into two main groups, megabats and microbats. Megabats, also known as fruit bats or flying foxes, are usually larger than microbats. They have big eyes and rely more on their sight and smell to find food. As their name suggests, they mostly eat fruit, nectar, and flowers. Microbats are usually smaller and have more varied diets. Some eat insects, while others might eat small animals like frogs or even fish. There is also a small group of microbats called vampire bats, which feed on the blood of other animals. Don't worry, though, vampire bats are not as scary as they sound, and they usually only take a tiny amount of blood from animals like cows or birds. They don't harm the animal, and the bite is often so small that the animal doesn't even notice. Why bats are important? Bats play a very important role in our world. Many bats eat insects, including mosquitoes and other bugs that can harm crops or carry diseases. By eating these insects, bats help to keep their numbers under control, which is good for farmers and for us. Some bats are also important for pollination, which means they help plants to produce fruits and seeds. When bats visit flowers to drink nectar, they carry pollen from one flower to another, just like bees do. This helps plants grow and produce food that we eat. In tropical rainforests, fruit bats help to spread seeds by eating fruit and then dropping the seeds far away from the original tree. This helps new trees grow and keeps the forest healthy. Without bats, many plants would struggle to survive, and the balance of nature would be disrupted. This is the first part of our deep dive into the world of bats. In the next part, we will explore where bats live, how they hunt, and some of the challenges they face in the modern world. Stay tuned! Bats, Fascinating Creatures of the Night, Part 2. Where do bats live? Bats are very adaptable animals, meaning they can live in many different places. They can be found in forests, deserts, cities, and even caves. Most bats like to live in dark, quiet places during the day, where they can sleep and stay safe from predators. These places where bats sleep are called roosts. Caves and mines. Many bats live in caves or abandoned mines. These places are cool, dark, and safe from most predators. Caves can sometimes hold thousands of bats, all sleeping close together. This helps keep them warm and protected. Trees. Some bats make their homes in trees. They might live in the hollow parts of trees, under loose bark, or even hang from branches. Trees offer a lot of hiding places, which makes them good spots for bats to roost. Bat houses. Some people build special houses for bats, called bat houses. These are small, wooden structures that provide a safe place for bats to live. Bat houses can help attract bats to areas where they are needed, like farms or gardens, where they can help control insect populations. How do bats hunt? Bats are nocturnal, which means they are active at night. They come out of their roosts when it gets dark and start looking for food. How they hunt depends on the type of bat and what they eat. Echolocation. Most microbats use echolocation to hunt. As mentioned in the first part, echolocation is a special way that bats use sound to see in the dark. They make high-pitched sounds, which bounce off objects and return to the bat as echoes. By listening to these echoes, bats can tell where things are, how big they are, and even what they are. This helps them find insects to eat, even when it is pitch dark. Catching insects. Many microbats eat insects. They are very skilled hunters and can catch bugs in midair. Some bats catch insects with their mouths, while others use their wings like nets to scoop the insects and then eat them. A single bat can eat hundreds of insects in one night, which is another reason why bats are so helpful to humans. Fruit and nectar. Megabats, like fruit bats, hunt in a different way. They do not use echolocation as much as microbats do. Instead, they rely on their strong sense of smell and good eyesight to find fruit and flowers. These bats fly from tree to tree, looking for ripe fruit to eat or flowers to drink nectar from. As they eat, they often drop seeds, helping to plant new trees. Challenges bats face. Even though bats are very successful hunters, they face many challenges in the modern world. Some of these challenges are natural, while others are caused by humans. Habitat loss. One of the biggest problems bats face is the loss of their habitats. As forests are cut down and caves are disturbed by human activities, bats lose the places they need to roost and hunt. When their homes are destroyed, bats have a harder time surviving. Pesticides. Pesticides are chemicals that people use to kill insects, but they can also harm bats. When bats eat insects that have been exposed to pesticides, they can get sick. Pesticides can also reduce the number of insects available for bats to eat, making it harder for them to find food. Climate change. Changes in the climate can also affect bats. Warmer temperatures might change the availability of food or suitable roosting sites. In some areas, bats are emerging from hibernation earlier in the year, but if their food is not yet available, they can starve. Human fear and misunderstanding. Unfortunately, many people are still afraid of bats and do not understand how important they are. Bats are sometimes killed because people think they are dangerous, even though most bats are harmless and beneficial. Educating people about bats can help reduce these fears and protect bats from unnecessary harm. This concludes the second part of our exploration of bats. In the final part, we will discuss how bats communicate, their unique life cycle, and what we can do to help protect these incredible creatures. Stay tuned! Bats, Fascinating Creatures of the Night, Part 3. How do bats communicate? Bats are social animals, meaning they often live and interact with other bats. Communication is important for them, whether they are looking for a mate, warning others of danger, or simply staying in touch with their group. Bats use a variety of methods to communicate, depending on their species and the situation. Sounds. Bats make different sounds to communicate with each other. Some sounds are used to attract mates, while others might be used to defend their territory or warn other bats of danger. These sounds are often too high-pitched for humans to hear, but they are very clear to other bats. Bats can also use their sounds to recognize members of their own group. Touch. Bats also use touch to communicate, especially mothers and their young. Baby bats, called pups, rely on their mothers for food and protection. Mothers recognize their pups by their smell and the sounds they make, and they often groom them by licking their fur. This grooming helps strengthen the bond between mother and pup. The life cycle of bats. The life of a bat is fascinating, starting from birth and continuing through their development into adults. Let's take a closer look at the different stages of a bat's life. Birth and early life. Bats are usually born in the spring or early summer, after a pregnancy that lasts a few weeks to several months, depending on the species. Female bats often gather in large groups called maternity colonies to give birth and raise their young. Most bats give birth to only one pup at a time, though some species can have twins. Growing up. As the pup grows, it starts to develop fur and its wings become stronger. After a few weeks, the pup begins to practice flying. Flying is a skill that takes time to learn, and young bats often make short, clumsy flights before they become skilled flyers. Adulthood. Once a bat reaches adulthood, it is fully independent. Most bats reach adulthood in just a few months, although they continue to grow and develop for a while. Adult bats spend their nights hunting and their days resting in their roosts. Bats are long-lived for their size, with many species living 10 to 20 years, and some even longer. How we can help bats? Bats face many challenges, but there are things we can do to help protect these important creatures. Protecting habitats. One of the most important things we can do is protect the places where bats live. This means preserving forests, wetlands, and other natural areas. We can also be careful not to disturb caves where bats roost, especially during the winter when they are hibernating. Building bat houses. As mentioned earlier, bat houses provide safe places for bats to roost. By putting up bat houses in our yards, gardens, or farms, we can help bats find safe places to live. Bat houses can be especially helpful in areas where natural roosting sites have been lost. Supporting conservation efforts, many organizations are working to protect bats and their habitats. By supporting these groups, whether through donations, volunteering, or spreading the word, we can contribute to the ongoing efforts to save bats from the threats they face. Conclusion: bats are truly remarkable creatures. From their incredible flying abilities to their role in our ecosystems, bats contribute so much to the world around us. Despite their importance, bats are often misunderstood and face many challenges. By learning more about these fascinating animals and taking steps to protect them, we can help ensure that bats continue to thrive for generations to come. The end. Thanks a lot for listening. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.